Welcome, everybody. This is Beer Guys Radio. Thanks for hanging out with us. We greatly appreciate it. Always a good time to get together, have a beer, hang out. It is 1 billion degrees in Atlanta today. I don't know if anybody saw that, but my little Echo device I've got on my desktop, it's one that's got the screen on it, and I was on a call earlier and glanced over and it had 101 on it. So I don't know if that's my watch did not concur. My watch had like 97 degrees. So I don't know. I guess it depends on where they're measuring from, but wherever that was 101 at the time. Like my Echo says 98 right now, and my Apple Watch says 94.
Well, you've got it good because my visual display device there has 100, and my watch says like 96. So that's a really good point. Why are they so different? And yeah, I didn't realize it was that hot outside because I haven't left the house today at all.
Yeah,
like, it's
So when it gets that hot, my office still gets warm because it's I'm like on the side of the house that gets the sun all day, and the air conditioner doesn't like to creep into this corner of the house as much upstairs. And then I've got, all kinds of computer equipment and such in here. So it gets a little warmer. So I could tell it was getting toasty, but thankfully it's not 101 in here.
Well, that's good. It's good. I can understand why the air conditioning wouldn't want to creep in there because it's hot and uncomfortable.
Because it's hot. It's like, I'm not going in there.
No, it's too hot. I don't want to do that.
No. Why would I do that? That's just silly talk. So
it's ridiculous.
We are going to jump into the show. You got any comments, questions? Let us know what you're drinking. Drop it in the chat. We'd love to hear what in the heck you're up to. And with that said, here we go. Welcome, everybody, to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Thanks for coming along and hanging out with us. We hope you got a cold drink. You're enjoying yourself, having a good time. We're here. We've all got a drink. Nate is still on Dry January. So He's going NA, and he'll share that with us here in just a minute. But I am Tim Dennis. This is Beer Guys Radio. Brian Hewitt, how you doing?
I'm all right. It's been a long week already, but I'm doing good. I'm here. I showed up, Tim. How's it going, Tim?
It's been a herding cats kind of week, as they say, or, eating soup with a fork, all of those kind of things. It's been one of those kind of weeks, but we're making it through. A lot of it's been good stuff. It's just been chaotic. So I'm hanging in there. Mo Mike Nate, how the heck are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to be back on the show this week, and excited to talk about all the hottest craft beer news.
Beer and other related things.
Correct.
So y'all, this is a momentous episode for us. In all of these years that we've been doing it, we finally made it significant to many of our friends and to Atlanta. This is episode 420.
It is.
So we made it to episode 420. And so for all those that celebrate, happy holiday. Use this as an excuse, to blaze it if that's your cup of tea. I don't partake, and it's not from anything like necessarily thinking it's bad or anything like that. It just doesn't agree with me. It just doesn't do what all my friends who do partake say that it does for them. It doesn't do those things for me. So I leave it alone. I'll have a couple beers and chill out. That'll be fine. So, Brian, I think I know from past science experiments that it doesn't agree with you very well either, does it?
No, it's very odd. It inflames my sinuses whenever I do it. And I say that as a guy who smokes cigars and has no issue with those. And I'm not even going to claim to be allergic to stuff. But there's a chance that I have some issue with that. I've also tried some of the gummies and gotten basically felt sick afterwards. Not high, just sick. And it was like, you know what, this is not for me, unfortunately, because I am a little jealous of the people who enjoy that.
It sounds great. I
would love to join you, but I'm going to stick with beer. You know what, I'm fine. I'm well served by beer and whiskey, bourbon. I've got that.
Fair enough.
So I can cry into my beer bottles.
Blind Neil that's hanging out with us on YouTube, and he said he's a cannabis guy. He said he had to quit booze a few years back. It was killing me. And that's fair, man. If it's not working for you, cannabis doesn't work for me. If you're in the booze, you give it up.
Yeah.
hey, you know what? Enjoy your relaxation time, however you wish to do it. But on that note, Brian,
Yes,
there was some cannabis talk on beer Twitter this week.
that is correct. Mark Gallo, who is a guy that does a lot of talking about the industry. He's a co-packer. He works for a co-packer, and he put out a poll. It's an interesting poll. He says in 10 years, bars in the U.S. will have what beverage more on draft and or tap, and the two options were non-alcoholic beer and cannabis related beverages. Which one do you think won? Or which one would you say would be the most likely?
Because of the topic that we're having this, you know what? If I were to vote on that, and I will say, I'm specifically referring to cannabis beverages here in saying this, I would definitely say NA beer, except caveat. There's so many caveats to this, Brian. They don't do a lot of NA beer on draft because of the issues with it. So are we taking that into account there? So I would guess, I think both are unlikely to be on taps, to be honest with you.
After thinking about it a fair amount, I am inclined to agree with you simply because I think cannabis beverages are so regulated and so controlled that you're not going to see them on draft because that's such a willy-nilly, hard to measure kind of way of distributing it, and they're so controlled. I don't think you're ever going to see those where they're not prepackaged in very precise amounts. So I think that that's unlikely. I think NA beer, because of issues with sanitation, just keeping it clean, I don't see a lot of that happen. I think we'll see some, but I think there'll be a real challenge because not only do you have to worry about the kegs going off and no alcohol to protect against the bad stuff, you got to worry about the tap lines being clean too. So
right. You know, so that's Blind Neil here. He made the comment. He's like, they're getting to be more hybrid drinks. He said THC infused beers and hard stuff. So right now they can't infuse THC into something with actual alcohol in it, but they are doing Syria Brewing's a great example. They have totally non-alcoholic beer, 0.0. That was very important to be able to do it. But they're THC and CBD infused. So is it both, Brian? If that were to go on tap, then that would be both NA beer and cannabis, right?
Well, yeah, I think most of the cannabis beverages by definition are NA. So actually the real winner for this, regardless of what happens, is NA beer because, I guess if it's just cannabis water. So, but it would
doesn't
be
have
both
to be an NA beer, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. I look like Mo Mike Nate had something to say. Did you want to throw something in there?
Well, two things. One, Tim had just mentioned Syria. Go check out bgr.show. It's episode 281 when we had them last on the show.
Good
and
stuff.
then what I was going to say is that when you had the terpene infused beers, I know for a lot of restaurants their complaints were, well, not only did it smell across the room whenever you poured one, their draft lines were getting tainted with that overwhelming smell. And so that might be why the cannabis on draft isn't as viable, because potentially that could cause issues with their tap lines.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Can you use those taps again just legally? Like once they've gone cannabis, could they ever be used for anything else, or do you have to burn them out in a field somewhere?
I guess a lot more cleaning though. And one more comment from Blind Neil here. He notes he's in Canada and the rules there are very different. So, we always make the assumption that everybody in the world is American, but he did note that he's in Canada and they have different rules.
That's a fair point. It's completely legal up there, right? Just across the board everywhere. Yeah.
Just smoke them if you got it. Smoke them and drink them if you got them. Just rock on. So, nice. Brian, with all that said, what were the results of Mark's poll?
Oh, yeah. Interestingly, the cannabis won 54% to 46%. So people think that in 10 years, we're going to have a lot of cannabis on draft or cannabis beverages of some kind, whether it be water or cannabis. I don't know what else it could be. So something like that, juice, cannabis beer, or like non-alcoholic beer. So some
kind of can of beverage, huh?
Yeah, and that surprised him. He's like he wasn't expecting that result, and so this is like his follower base involves people just in the industry, the beverage industry in general, like everything from the non-alcoholic, the various sodas, the hyped energy drinks, and everything, like beer people too. Like I know he goes and meets up with big beer marketing people around the country. So yeah, apparently people think that's going to happen. I'm skeptical. I think that we're so uptight about all of it and everything's in dispensaries. I just don't see the draft thing happening. Like not
I think it'll be
without
tough.
big changes.
Now,
so, yeah,
if NA did take off more or continues to flow, there was an article recently that said NA beer was kind of a fad, that low alcohol beer is going to take its place, and I'm not sure I 100% agree with that, because there's definitely going to be people that don't want 2%. They just don't want alcohol at all there. And but if NA continues to hold some market share, and we have to remember that although NA itself has had impressive growth for NA beer, it's still a very tiny drop in the bucket of the overall beer and beverage market.
sure.
But assuming there's demand there, I could see to where we develop tap cleaning procedures that are more in line, more conducive to having an NA beer on tap. It's going to have to be more stringent than what you do with alcohol beer, with beers with alcohol in them. But that's something. I mean, we put soda on tap
we do.
lines, things like that. You have to clean them out now. Now, granted, we have a little more food in beer, I guess, well, maybe not. I mean, if you got a sugary soda, you got food there for bacteria to chomp on as well.
There's a lot of preservative chemicals in sodas. Like there's a laundry list of chemicals in there. So
that's
it's
a
not
good point.
like it's not something as clean as just like malts and sugars and that sort of thing. I think what will beat both of those, if things keep going the way it's trending now, is just hop water. Like that,
just hop water. Yeah,
just hop water. I think that I expect at some point soon that there will always just be a hop water tap at every place that has taps. So just that'll be an option, because it's hugely popular and it's easily, it's something that anybody can probably get into. Like it's the non-alcoholic choice. I guess some people aren't into hops, but it's so popular. And it's so inexpensive to make. I can't see why they wouldn't do it as long as it sells. So, yeah.
So Nate, as you're going through your dry January here, let's say you are out at a bar, and let's fast forward our 10 years here. And this bar has an NA IPA on tap, and they have a hop water. And the hop water to be a good hop water. What are you more likely to choose?
Hop water all day. I mean,
Okay.
but I also I thoroughly enjoy hop water. Like when we had Hop Lock on the show, I really enjoyed tasting their products and going through. They did the hop water and they did the hot tea.
Right.
So given those two options, hop water all day.
Okay. Brian, how about you, man? Would you go hop water or NA beer?
I probably still favor NA beer. I'm kind of hit and miss with hop water. Sometimes I really enjoy it, sometimes I don't. And I've had a Bitburger does a great non-alcoholic beer, and I would be happy to drink that just about any time. So that kind of scratches that particular itch. And one of the things people have talked about with the NA beers is like it's something that's there, that if beer has become part of your ritual or part of your habit, having something like that gives you the aroma, the carbonation, the flavor, and fits in with the whole ritual of the situation. I find that like at times when I would normally have a beer, if I grab a non-alcoholic beer, I am satisfied by that. It's not about whatever little bit of like buzz or chemicals I'd be getting from it. It's just it's a lot about the flavor and the feeling and everything else going on with it. So, yeah.
So that we've talked about that a little bit in the past, but I would definitely say in my younger days that I was seeking out the alcohol there, and I'm looking for, I wanted to get my buzz on, and that's become much, much less of a priority to me. And the alcohol, there are certain beers that are very high ABV that alcohol definitely contributes to the flavor of the beer and is part of the character of what I like about that beer. But I've seen people still that complain, this beer's only 5%. This beer's only, 4 or what have you. And I just don't care. I don't generally, unless I know I am ordering a big beer, I don't even look at the ABV most of the time. So if it's a beer that sounds good to me, I'm gonna drink it.
I think we've got the misconception a bit here in the US because we're very value driven that we determine the value of the beer is the ABV. That's the quality there. It's actually the ingredients. It's the
Sure.
hops, it's the grain, but a lot the hops really these days, but it's the hops, the grain. It's like the alcohol, it's ethanol. It's like you could get that anywhere. You could throw a little extra in yourself, but it's everything else in there. That's really driving the price of it. So like
Yeah.
that's the value really. It's not the ABV, it's the quality, the flavor. And we've got our signals crossed with that, I think. And I guess that if you prioritize just getting hammered, then maybe yes, the in terms of effectiveness, then the higher ABV thing is what you're looking for. But if you just like beer and you like the flavor of it, that shouldn't be really part of the equation as to determining if it's more valuable or less than the next beer, you know.
Yeah, and granted, a higher ABV beer will have more ingredients or more malt, I should say, in it. But you can have a lower alcohol, heavily hopped IPA. They're going to put any money they saved on grain, they'll spend on hops there. So,
Yes.
it definitely could be. I can see the thought process somewhat, but it's not always the case. And I don't think that you can look at a beer that's a lower ABV and automatically assume it's a lower value beer simply because of that.
I definitely agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So Brian, tying into that though, talking about cannabis as we're 420 in it this week, there is some chatter out there that says cannabis consumption could be cannibalizing craft beer drinking.
Yeah. So there's a research in both the US and Canada is showing that cannabis users are reporting that they are drinking less. And we've already had a comment in the show to that
Yeah,
effect.
Blind Neil here to say that's the truth. Yeah.
That's right. And the percentage of users reporting that they are drinking less seems to be increasing, at least in Canada. They've been tracking that longer because it's been legal in Canada longer than it has been here. Currently, 22.8% of cannabis users in Canada and 36% of users in the US say they are drinking less. And nearly half of those respondents reported that they are replacing some of their alcohol consumption with cannabis, or some or all, one of those things. This does sound like some of the stats we've heard previously from states that have already legalized cannabis, but the researchers point out that these studies are not backed by any control data, meaning it's all self-reported, and it could be swayed by what people saying what they think others want to hear or what they should, what they ideally want to be doing. For example, people are notoriously bad at self-reporting how much they eat for diet studies, even when they're trying to be, trying very hard to be honest. You just forget stuff. That's the thing. So, additionally, as we all know, you hear it a lot. Correlation is not causation. The changes may have no direct connection to the cannabis consumption. It could be part of overall trends towards greater health and wellness awareness, that sort of thing. But like I said, in our case, we have somebody who has actually replaced it because the one thing was really bad for them. The other thing was much better for them overall, and help them achieve their health goals and have a good
Okay.
time. Yeah.
All
So
right.
there we
you
go. So maybe
Yeah.
it is, maybe it's not. It's a little hard to know just yet, but maybe.
It'll be interesting to see how it continues to go. I know there has been talk of that as cannabis has been legalized more places here in the US. There's been more talk in the US, and I think also people are drinking less in general, from what we've heard there. So that could have an impact on it, but it sounds like some of the users did say that specifically that there's some replacement there going on. So it's not just that they're drinking less,
Yes.
but they are doing some replacing there. Interesting stuff. So
I really think it's interesting
yeah.
that we've got a young generation. Like you usually think of the young people as the ones getting crazy. We've got the young people being the most health conscious of all the generations
What
currently.
are these
Everybody,
people up to?
I don't. Are they rebelling against our rebellion and going back to? I don't get it. I just like, let's eat salads and take
I'm gonna
long
be
walks in the forest. Or I don't know. It's crazy.
crazy. Let's be healthy and find our chi, our thing
Yes.
and our shui and all
Chakras.
that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
let's all align our chakras here.
Unlock
Uh,
every chakra. Yes.
Man, I guess it's not a bad thing. There's so much stuff going on with teaching people to be kinder, smarter, more accepting in that. Definitely doesn't make for a worse society, but I enjoyed my hell raising days when I was younger. Maybe sometimes that I'm like, oh, okay, I shouldn't have done that, and every now and then I see friends from years ago that remind me of things I did that I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. But I had a lot of fun. I did not die. I was never arrested. So
And
I
you weren't
think
punched in the face
successful.
that many times. Only
It's
a
true.
few.
That's not necessarily true, but the other things are factual. That one maybe not. So I caused more trouble than I deserve. Not mischief. Let me use that term. Not too bad of trouble. But that being said, moving along, so I don't have to talk about my behavior in the past any longer. Guys, let's talk about our beers of the week. Nate, we're going to start with you and your dry January. What is
Yeah.
on tap for you this week?
All right. So this week I am starting off with Peroni 0.0. Not the 0.5% that is legal in the States to be considered alcohol-free or non-alcoholic. But this is a true 0.0. And honestly, when you take a sip, it tastes like Peroni.
It's a
It's
Peroni, huh?
it's kind of like the Heineken 0.0. It's pretty wild. Or to a slight extent, even the Guinness 0.0. Pretty wild how some of these imports just have really nailed their flavor profile so well that even with zero alcohol in it, it tastes, if side by side, you can probably tell a difference side by side,
Right.
but standalone, it it's really hard to say, oh, I'm not actually drinking a Peroni. And then I decided that because I am drinking a non-alcoholic Peroni, that I should try a non-alcoholic spaghetti. And so I've got a bottle of Liar's Aperol, non-alcoholic Aperol with some lemon juice. And later in the show, I'm going to whip up a spaghetti and have one of those.
Madness.
Yes, sir.
I think I may have mentioned this to Brian before, but I'm going to come out in public and state this. I do not think NA Guinness tastes as close to Guinness as a lot of other people claim that it does. I think that it is substantially different in taste and body from real deal Guinness.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had the Heineken 0.0. It nails it. There's a couple others that are on there. I don't think the 0.0 Guinness is bad, but I do think it's substantially different from real Guinness.
It's different. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
different. It's good. What I really want to try, and I keep looking for it, and I've yet to find it, is
Black
Deschutes
Booty.
Black Butte Porter, the non-alcoholic version. They
Yeah.
use that technology that allows you to make the beer as kind of a really condensed syrup and then kind of mix it with whatever level of alcohol you want, kind of as though it were a soft drink. I think that's roughly how the technology works. I'm like, it's been a long time since I looked at it, but people say it's really good.
Are we gonna get a Deschutes freestyle machine where you can just dial your beer
Ooh.
in there?
Ooh.
That would be amazing, and
Now
I think
that's
that
what I
that's
want to see in 10
possible.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great, and I think that the people behind the technology, I forget what it's called, basically allow for that. Like, you could have different levels of you could have a non-alcoholic version, you could have a session version, you could have the
Wow.
regular version, and maybe even have an extra oomph version if you wanted to, and that would be great. I'm like, I would like, when you're ordering something off of Uber Eats or whatever, would you like to add a little extra meat to your pizza or whatever? I'm like, would you like to add
Yeah.
an extra little shot of booze to your your beer? Like it's a $1 upcharge. So I'm like, yeah, let me do that. That sort of thing. That would be kind of great.
Go
I
up
love
to
it.
touch the little touch screen. I'm be like, I'm gonna start with this Imperial Stout. We're gonna barrel age that, and I'll take a little coffee and vanilla in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have talked to people that do the fast aging, so theoretically, you could almost do something like that. I guess the fast aging isn't
I think that's
exactly that
totally
fast,
different.
but
Yeah, I
yeah.
appreciate your thought there, but I think that's totally different, Brian.
They'd
Totally
have to
different. Totally
pre-make
different.
they'd have to pre-age it and make it into a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
condensed beer.
Yeah.
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 No, I get it. Yeah.
So, Brian, what are you drinking this week?
Oh, yeah. To get things started, I'm drinking things out of a Hemperor glass, New Belgium's Hemperor. For those who don't remember that, it was a beer that was out for a little while. That when you opened it, everyone in the room would turn their heads, trying to figure out who was smoking the weed in the room. But I don't have any Hemperor because it's gone, because that has passed away. But I started off with a pregame of Hot Butcher and Perennial Artisans collaboration called Thoroughly New. It was very nice. Wasn't wasn't really super dank, but it was as close as I had to something that was dank. And right now I am working on the tail end of Halfway Crooks Berliner Weiss, which is quite nice. I'm very happy with that. And after this, which I'm going to have to get into pretty soon, I will be getting into some Neutral Ground Mannequin de Belgique. I think that's how you say that. It's a Belgian triple. So that's the next thing. So
that is
Tim,
the thing. You know what? I've got a little bit of Berliner Weiss from Halfway Crooks. That's what I'm sipping on. This is one of my favorite Berliners that I've ever had. Our buddy Stan from Fort Worth, Texas was in town last weekend, so we got to hang out with him for a while. We went down to Halfway Crooks, and it just so happened that the beer gods shined upon me, and they had some Berliner there. So I got a 6-pack to go, shared it around so we could all enjoy this. And I love the bottles. They're in the stubby bottles. For those watching the live stream, you can see there. But I like these bottles a lot, and the Berliner is really nice. It's tart. It's not knock your teeth out sour. It's tart, just really, really good flavor there. So I enjoy this one a lot. Super refreshing when it's 173 degrees out like it is today. So I'm enjoying this.
Didn't we determine, maybe Stan looked it up when he was here, like that was like the authentic OG way of bottling a Berliner?
I don't remember. I don't remember that. Maybe he did, but I don't recall that specifically.
It seems like there was a comment about some original throwback Berliner that it was also bottled in that stubby bottle. So I don't know.
A little stubby.
To me, it's got a little bit of the funk that reminds me of like a Lambic Light, like a super low.
There is some funk there.
Yeah, like a very, like if you took a lot of the tart out, not watered down. I don't want to say watered down because that sounds bad, but like a super session lambic, even though lambics aren't
session lambic
in themselves are actually pretty light, but it tastes like that. I really, really like it. So it's
just a great beer,
an extremely well made beer. Yes,
it is very, very good, very, very good. Brian, it's hot, man. We've talked about it. It's hot, but something that goes along well with the heat is a beer and baseball, man. People go out, have a good time. And, if you're thinking of beer and or baseball, then our friends, Terrapin Brewery Atlanta, have got you covered. We've got a fun one on deck this week for them. So they collaborate a lot with Braves players for various beers that they've had. They've collaborated with Chipper Jones in the past. They've collaborated with Jeff Francoeur, and they've got a new one on deck here. So next up to the plate, Diving Catch Kolsch, brewed in collaboration with Andrew Jones. So this new brew just tapped, and it's a perfect beer for summer, refreshing and crushable, Brian. But if you're not feeling a Kolsch right now, they've also got a Schwartz beer on tap. That's only 4.8%, so another one that you can enjoy. Or maybe you want to go for a Southside Shandy brewed with passion fruit, little passion fruit shandy there. If that's your cup of tea, rock on and have a good time with it. Of course, they've also got plenty of Los Bravos Mexican lager on hand. So head on out to Truist Park, stop by the Terrapin Brewery Atlanta, and grab you a beer. Tell them the beer guys sent you. And thank you to Terrapin for sponsoring the show.
Great. And, can you believe, Tim, that we are closing in on the 4th of July already? It's
crazy.
It's like a week away or so. Well, we are. And if you're looking for something fun to do on the 4th of July weekend, Truck and Tap Duluth is throwing their Red, White, and Brew party starting at 8 p.m. You can expect live music, drink specials, and, of course, a fine food truck to go along with it. A little later in the month, other Truck and Tap locations are holding a luau party, which promises you a cocktail specials and all the vibrant island vibes you can possibly handle. Dates and times may vary or will vary, and make sure you check out the details on your favorite location's social media, and you can find all their social media links at truckandtap.com. But now let's talk about my Truck and Tap beer picks for the week. As we like to say here on Beer Guys Radio, stouts are for summer, and it's 100 degrees here, so I'm pretty sure it's summer. And for that reason, my pick at Truck and Tap Woodstock is Prairie's French Toast Brunch, a barrel-aged pastry stout with maple syrup, cinnamon, and vanilla. If that doesn't say summer, I don't know what does. I mean, that is pure summer right there. At Truck and Tap Duluth, my pick is Untitled Arts Chocolate Malt Amour Pastry Stout, a fine summer stout weighing in at a mere 10% ABV, the lightest selection of my picks this week. At Truck and Tap Alpharetta, I'm not going to be able to pass up on Bond Brothers Hyaw, Hyaw. It's an acronym. I didn't look into what it means, but it's a barrel-aged imperial coffee stout. It sounds like the perfect beverage for getting a little reflected sunlight while you're sitting indoors next to the air conditioning. And finally, at Truck and Tap Lawrenceville, it's going to be Creature Comforts Dreaming in Slow Motion, a blend of barrel-aged stouts with vanilla. Of course, you don't have to go with my decadent picks for this week. There are plenty of beer options with ABVs in the single digits, not to mention wines, spirits, cocktails. The world is your oyster stout at Truck and Tap. And don't forget to check out what's up at truckandtap.com. And thank you to Truck and Tap for your support.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Guys, I have a fun one here to go over. And this comes from a VinePair article that I saw. And it was talking about what is your Mount Rushmore of IPAs. So the author reached out to 7, as he put it, insightful beer voices. And this included brewers as well as beer authors, bloggers, writers, to book authors and such. So just a good sampling of people who know their beer. They've been around the block a time or two and had a good time. One of those people being Mitch Still from New Realm Brewing, formerly of Stone Brewing, friend of the show here in Atlanta now. And they had Ryan Guthey, who's the co-founder of Wicked Weed Brewing, part of the panel as well. So all in, 18 beers received votes, with over half of those getting just one vote. So a single vote from a single person there. However, the top 4 seem to be pretty clear winners there on the list for the top 4 beers. The first one, Nate, have you looked at my notes? Do you know what we've got here yet?
So, yeah, because I was reviewing the article
in
in case you guys were going to ask me what my
in
Mount
case there was a
Rushmore beer is
quiz.
gonna be.
In
Yeah,
case
well,
there was a quiz
not
there?
even really.
Yeah. Oh my God, is there a test?
I was hoping it was an open article test.
Yes, right.
No, I was wondering if you were gonna ask what my Mount Rushmore beers were, and spoiler alert, 2 of the top, 2 of the most,
2 of the top would be
2
on
of the
your
top
list as
ones
well.
were
Okay,
ones were gonna
we'll
be on
get
my
back
list
to
too.
that, Nate. We'll get back to that. So, in the number 1 spot, I think that most people who know beer probably would not be shocked at this one. Russian River's Pliny the Elder in the number 1 spot there. Coming in at number 2, Alchemist Heady Topper. Number 3, Sierra Nevada Celebration. And number 4, there's 4 on Mount Rushmore, right? Isn't
There
that,
are.
is
Yes.
that right? That's right. So
have you not been?
I have
Okay.
actually. Yes. It's been a while. I couldn't remember, is it 3, 4, 10? Have they added to it, taken away, so I don't know. We do have a mountain monument here in Georgia. They're trying very hard to get rid of. So I don't know if because I was going to say, for us, I was going to say, what would be your Stone Mountain of beer? But I'm like, no, that we're going to stay away from that one. But anyhow, Treehouse Julius there in the number 4 spot. One I found really interesting, only from one person, and I definitely can't argue with this take. And this is from Mitch Steele. He mentioned Ballantine IPA. And that's Nate. I bet you may not even know of that beer. Have never even heard of it, have you? So I've
never heard of that.
Talking about the OG of OGs there. That's the only American IPA that had survived Prohibition. And it was a beer that, as Mitch put it, inarguably inspired Fritz Maytag to brew Anchor's Liberty Ale and Ken Grossman to brew Celebration. So I think everybody in the article probably interpreted what Mount Rushmore would be in their own way. Because I tell you what, Treehouse Julius, I think it's a fantastic beer. But if we're talking Mount Rushmore, to me, I'm looking at founding fathers kind of stuff. What was the ones that opened the doors, that got things going in that. So that would be kind of where I would go. And I think, there, even Russian River and Alchemist are probably what I would call like second wave. Sierra Nevada as well, So Ballantine IPA probably deserves their a place on there, but I guess it's all open to interpretation. There's no rules here, Nate. We're not being graded on this. There's no grades on this. Good. So you can go wherever you want to go with it. So Nate, I'm going to come back to you. What would be on your Mount Rushmore? I'll even say of beer. Now you can use all IPAs if you want to, but what's on your Mount Rushmore of beer?
Well, considering I thought earlier about it just for IPAs,
Okay.
I'm going to stick with IPAs.
All right.
And the very first beer I thought of was Russian River Pliny the Elder.
Yeah.
And the second beer I thought of was the Alchemist Heady Topper.
Fair enough.
And the third one I would do would be Sweetwater IPA. We're talking OG and especially Georgia OG, and to a greater extent, like a larger regional brewery. I think Sweetwater IPA is one of those ones that just has been around a while. It's been consistently made, and now that they're starting to get wider national distribution, everybody can experience that as well. And then the fourth one, I struggled with it because I wanted to say a vice presidential. Here we go. A vice presidential one would be Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. That,
Okay.
that was the gateway beer that got me into IPAs. And so even though it's not a full-on IPA, I'm going to say it's a presidential
The Veep.
Mount Rushmore.
The Veep.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll give it a spot there. Maybe a little smaller behind the other three cans carved in there. Brian, I'm coming at you next, man. What's on your Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, I have a lot of appreciation for, and Mitch is a smart guy, and he leave it to him to pick that up. And they closed before closing was cool as a brewery in 1972. So they were around for 115 years. I say that just kind of tongue in cheek, but yeah. They really were OG. 115 years and closed in 1972. But for IPA, it's going to be Russian Rivers, Pliny the Elder, Heady Topper. I'm going to go with from my perspective, it's going to be 90-minute IPA from Dogfish Head, and it's going to be Sierra Nevada Celebration IPA without a question, without too much thought about it. Like, that just feels right to me. If I were going to do if we were going to replace Stone Mountain with just an IPA bottles, I think I'd have to go Tropicalia, Sweetwater IPA. It's a little harder after that point in time, and I'm probably going to anger some people, but I would probably I'd consider putting Cherry Street Step and Razor up there because I have a lot of history loving that, and maybe Variance Cashmere New England IPA on there. There's some other stuff I'm probably forgetting, but if I were going all like local stuff, those are some big ones for me. So it's from my own perspective. And
okay, yeah, it's your mountain, Brian. It's your mountain.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other stuff that I thought about. Inner Voices Memory Farm's great. I love Six Bridges Medlock. I love Torch Top's Hop de Leon. There have been some interesting one-offs from the Hop Hut for Monday night, but one-offs can't be chiseled into a mountain. Sorry, you're disqualified. So
yeah.
Tim, did you give yours, or are you done?
I haven't yet. Yeah. I haven't yet. So if we have to stick to IPAs, honestly, that's going to be tough for me because I'm not a huge IPA guy, but I could definitely say unquestionably Pliny the Elder gets a spot on it because that's a beer that even I enjoy, not being an IPA guy. I can have a pint of it and really enjoy it and appreciate what it is. I've had it from the bottle several times, and this definitely could have been situational, my enjoyment, but out at GABF at Fallen Rock Tap House, Pliny the Elder on draft. That's just an experience. Great beer. There's people that can run out to their neighborhood bar and do that. I'm not one of them. So for me, it was a pretty significant experience. I think Heady Topper started the haze craze. So, they need that. And we had talked with Kimmick. Is it John Kimmick with Alchemist? And he had commented, he's like, if you look at it, Heady Topper isn't even really that hazy. It's just at the time they were all crystal clear. So having any haze in there at all he's got a lot of grief on it. That was hazy beer. And then we just went nuts with it from there. So I think, so here's the thing, Sweetwater IPA. I love that beer. And I think if you get a fresh Sweetwater IPA, again, like I was talking about with Pliny the Elder, you go down to the Sweetwater Brewery in Atlanta and you get a pint of Sweetwater IPA. It's a fantastic beer. However, I think for significance and historical significance, I think 420 would top IPA there.
But it's a pale ale. It's not officially an
IPA.
It is.
This is my mountain, Brian.
Okay,
this is my mountain.
Fine.
So
yeah, there you go.
So it's a VP. Nate's already given us permission to put VPs on there. So
very significant.
So we'll
VP.
slide that one in there. That's right. And I'm thinking of some others that like Sip of Sunshine. That one was a stellar beer. You've got Maine Beer Company their beers.
Lunch
That's
got a
another one.
nod.
Lunch
At
on there.
least
So,
one nod.
and
Yeah.
along
Worthy.
those lines, if I was picking Georgia beers, and I'm going to go just beer, not just IPA, but I think 420 has to be on there. 420 for Georgia beer has to be on there. I'm going to say something like Hellenbach if we're talking a Mount Rushmore beer. And for those not familiar, Friends Brewing did one of the first ones. I think they may have been the first brewery in Georgia to win a JBF medal. And, a short-lived brewery there, but that's one that's significant to Georgia beer. We could go back to the Marthasville and the Dogwood days, Brian, and pull some beers from them and see what's going on. But Tropicalia, that was that was turning the page. That was turning the page for Georgia beer. So that one deserves a nod. We may be talking different periods of Georgia beer, but it's definitely going to get it. Trop's got to be up there. 420's got to be up there. I think the other positions could be debated. I asked this question on Reddit ATL Beer today, and there was a lot of interesting input there. One person said, "See the Stars." And for those who remember See the Stars, the release of that was the first beer in Georgia that got hype from like trading, which was super hot at the time. And some of our not so awesome residents decided to try and gouge people on the trades. And so it started a lot of chatter online, but it made a lot of noise. It made people take a look at Georgia and take a look at our beers. And to be honest, See the Stars was a phenomenal beer. So yeah, man. I think some of the spots I may just write in pencil it first, and then we can see later about filling them in. But I think for beer everywhere, Pliny the Elder is definitely going to get a prime spot there. That's for sure. Georgia 420 Tropicalia definitely have to be up there, but from there I think another one that could be open to discussion.
We did get a comment from Instagram saying that that Stone IPA would, speaking
can't
of
argue with that.
Like that would be a good one. And other people did mention Ballast Points IPA, and that took the area by storm for a minute too, and that was very significant and I think influential too. I can see why people would add those to their Mount Rushmore of IPAs.
So from the Vine Pair article, the rest of the list here, after the top four, Ballast Point Sculpin got 2 votes. Russian River's Blind Pig got 2 votes. There's a lot of debate in the beer community about Blind Pig versus Pliny the Elder. A lot of people think Blind Pig is the better beer, but it got 2 votes. Bell's Two Hearted got a couple of votes. Fathead's Hunter got 2. I haven't had that beer, so I can't speak.
I haven't either.
But it got 2 votes, so I guess that's worth something. And then in the 1 vote club, we have Alpine Nelson, Maine Beer Company's Lunch, Bear Republic Racer 5. That's another great one. Other half, All Rawaka Everything, North Park Hop Foo. Again, Ballantine IPA from Mitch Still, Alchemist Focal Banger, Lagunitas IPA, which I think is one that probably deserved, for significance sake there. Dogfish Head 90-minute. Brian, I know you mentioned that one. That's another one I think for significant stake probably needs to be a little higher up on the list there. And then Wicked Weeds Freak of Nature got a vote as well.
We had somebody
beers.
We had somebody on Instagram suggest Stone IPA as well as being one of her Mount Rushmore.
Really? I wouldn't have thought anybody would have said that, Nate. That's surprising.
You weren't paying attention.
Nate doesn't know what I'm talking about. He doesn't.
No.
He doesn't know. Brian just mentioned that. He just mentioned that someone said that on Instagram. So it's okay.
There's an echo. There's an echo in here. It's okay.
Nate's had like 3 NA beers. We need to give him. We need to chill.
He's feeling a little tipsy now.
And to be honest, I know there's times when I've been focused on something else and I've repeated questions that like we just talked about. I'm like, okay, yeah, I was looking at it. Nate was busy checking the Instagram so he can stay in touch with people for us. So he wasn't listening to Brian's jibber jabber there.
No, he wasn't.
Yep. So guys, a couple more fun things. Brian, I didn't see anything about this article. I just see your headline here. You said coca, the undiscovered adjunct. So coca as in like cocaine?
Yes. This is a story we've actually held on to for a few weeks because it's never fit in. And this week being our 420th episode, it makes the most sense to actually say something about that. A coca infused beer has recently been launched in La Paz, Bolivia, and it's coca, as in the plant that makes cocaine. The creation of the beer was inspired by a recent decision by the World Health Organization to evaluate the nutritional and potential non-narcotic benefits of the coca leaf. So they're evaluating it currently, apparently. Bolivia is the world's third largest producer of coca leaf, and it seems that they've been trying for years and years to find a way to legally export coca leaf around the world to help their economy. Inside the country, coca leaf infused products are pretty common. They chew the coca leaf as a alternative to coffee for a little bit of a stimulant. As to how the beer tastes, the distillery that makes it says, quote, beer can be bitter, but the sweet touch we give it with coca makes it more palatable, unquote. If you happen to be traveling to Bolivia soon, you can grab a bottle for about $2 and let us know for yourself. And please let us know if you do, because I'd really like to know what that's about. I don't imagine us in the U.S. ever getting to a point in the foreseeable future where you can put coca leaf into an alcoholic product. That just, even if the one was legal, the two together, just no way that would happen. Not even.
Have you ever seen old bottles of medicine from the U.S., like from the 1800s? It's like, here's infant's cough medicine syrup. It's 47% heroin, 12% cocaine. It's like, yeah.
And a light dusting of arsenic to help them,
I bet it clears them right up there. Take it. It cures what ails you, man. Yeah. I wonder what the coca leaves. I know they chew them and all that. I've seen the videos, like a lot of the indigenous people there, they'll just be sitting around with a mouthful of the leaves, I guess, kind of like chewing tobacco here. But
it's a stimulant. Yeah.
How intense is that stimulant? Because we've had our issues here in the States with putting stimulants in alcoholic beverages. And, that's dangerous. That's dangerous territory there, man. You're keeping people hyped up and keep pumping the alcohol in. So I'm kind of curious how much it is. How much it impacts. We'll have to watch this news for a year down the road when they're like, coca beer has been removed from shelves. So people were getting high as a kite and also drunk. So
apparently in Bolivia, they have it in a lot of stuff, but I don't know about alcoholic products. But yeah, I guess it depends on how many leaves you chew on. And if people are using that instead of coffee, and I know I like my coffee fairly strong, it must be fairly potent, or you have to chew a lot of them. I don't know. I've never tried it, so it's.
I gotta say, man, I really would like to have tried an old Coca-Cola with like the Coke in it and stuff. Not just to see what it was about. I had a teacher in high school, and remember, I'm not a young guy, so high school for me was the late 80s, and my teacher at the time was probably in her 60s, and that so. I mean, I don't know when they stopped. Nate, Google for it. See when they took the cocaine out of Coca-Cola, because all I know is she used to talk about it, and she looked like she was just having a life-changing experience talking about how good it was back then. Now, but I'm like, well, I didn't think it was in there that late, but I guess she would have been, what, 1920s to 30s, maybe she could have been drinking Coke. So
1903.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. So I don't think she was. No,
bootleg.
I don't think she was old enough.
Stuff.
Yeah. Vintage cocaine Coca-Cola there.
I wonder if people were hoarding this stuff. I'm like, oh, they made it illegal. Go
Could
buy a crate.
Yeah.
Go load up the mule and head to the local
market. Like rich people with alcohol when Prohibition went in, or like Kennedy with cigars when they had the Cuban embargo.
That's right. He flew somebody over to Cuba to pick up just a ton of Cuban cigars right before he signed the thing making it illegal to import them.
Yep. Yeah, he sure did. He sure did, man. Crazy stuff. Crazy.
Wild.
Brian, as it is this summer, people are going to be taking vacation, and a common vacation destination is the beach. And a common beach activity is having a drink. But if I read this right, drinking on the beach is going to give me skin cancer.
Yeah, there seems to be changes in studies about when beer is good for you, when beer is bad for you. This week it's bad for you, and according to the journal, the British Journal of Dermatology, it's especially bad for you when you're heading to the beach. And it's not because you're going to get sloppy drunk and forget to put sunscreen on and pass out and get a sunburn. Apparently, the research suggests that alcohol reduces the amount of time you can spend in the sun before you get a burn. And the reason for it is still unknown, but the speculation is alcohol lowers the carotenoid count in your body. Them carotenoids, you need them, which in turn lowers the skin's antioxidant defenses against UV rays. The sun has a lot of UV rays, and you're going to get all of them on the beach. So if you're heading to the beach with your cooler, don't forget to bring a little shade with you, an umbrella or something like that, because it's your ability to withstand that stuff and drink at the same time is diminished. So that's a new thing, and yeah, if you're
Be
worried
careful.
about that,
Drink
be careful.
responsibly.
Yeah, or shade responsibly, whichever.
Shade responsibly. Either drink irresponsibly, shade responsibly. So I have a related story, I guess, to this. As far as I know, I don't have skin cancer yet, but I went down to Destin a few years ago, 4th of July, went down to Destin, hanging out there, and caught me one of them little beach chairs out back close to a bar. And I do believe I had an umbrella in my chair, but I don't think it covered all of me. And I'm fairly sure I sat out on the beach for like 6 hours. And the beach was a 30-second walk to the bar. So my chair was a 30-second walk to the bar at the back of this joint. And they had a $3 pina colada. So I sat on the beach all day drinking pina coladas. Now, I had my shorts on. I think I had like a muscle shirt on, but I had the umbrella covering the top of me. What did not get covered was my lower legs and my knees. And so I'm sitting there with the, in the low chair with my knees bent up, and my knees were getting hot, but I got to be honest that I didn't notice it burning. I'm just like, oh, it's hot. It's hot here, But what happened is my tops of my knees became well done steaks there. And for the rest of the weekend, taking a step and making that flesh bend on my knees was excruciating. And my cousin's wife got me this gel. It was like aloe vera and something else. And putting it on was excruciating because anything touching my knees was just painful. And this gel was soothing, but I still had to get it on there, So that was fun. And then my knees peeled. So, maybe my point in sharing this is when I'm out, y'all keep an eye on my knees for any skin issues. And, in case I don't notice it, please point that out to me so that I can get it checked out.
We may have to just chop them off and give you peg legs, Tim.
That's fine. Can I get some of them blade legs? Well, you know the ones I'm talking about, right?
How good is your insurance? Because the answer is maybe.
The answer is maybe. Yeah, depends. And I want to gain about a foot when I get those. Like still.
Yeah, that's super
blade
doable.
Stilts is really what I'm looking for.
That's the easy part,
Okay.
Just getting the blades is the expensive part. As a guy from the Northwest who didn't know anything about the sun in the South, I think the first time I went down to Florida, I got just a horrible. I had all kinds of words I wanted to say. A horrible burn on my shoulders because I didn't realize how intense it was, and it wasn't out for too long. And I got blisters and I got weird, I got freckles for a little while. I'm like, man, I think I may have as far as I know, I'm fine. It's in any inspection I've been to the doctor, they don't tell me I've gotten anything. But if I do wind up getting some skin cancer, especially on my shoulders, I'm like, I know what I did. I know. I was an idiot. I kind of earned that. Me. So that was intense. So it's no joke.
I'd say that I'd watch your shoulders for you, but I honestly hope that there's not a lot of cases where I can see your naked shoulders, Brian. So that's, you and I don't do stuff like the pool and all that. So there's not going to be a lot of instances where that would be appropriate, to be quite honest.
I put on extra clothing when I go to the pool, just to, out of modesty.
Up. Yeah. Brian's got a one piece that he likes to wear to the pool.
Get suspenders. I got these really cool suspenders for swimming.
Literally
extra wide
never
over my shoulders.
Brian's a fashion icon. No one's ever seen this kind of fashion there. Brian, we got one more story here that we want to share. So you're looking at some interesting stuff with yeast in Chile.
Yeah. So researchers in southern Chile have created new hybrid lager yeast strains using the wild yeast they found in the bark of Patagonian trees. And I had to look up Patagonia. I didn't know exactly where Patagonia is. That's the entire like southern portion of the South America, which includes Chile and was it Argentina on the other side? Anyway, so it's that whole area, like really, really far down there to the south. They published their findings in the journal PLOS Genetics, which is actually, I forget what the acronym was. I looked it up, but something about the Library of Science. Any public Library of Science? Anyway, so it turns out these hybrid strains of yeast can produce as much, if in some cases more, alcohol as commercial yeast strains while generating unique aromas. According to the researchers, the hybrid strains give off a variety of aromas. Some were sweet, unspecified sweetness. Others were spicy and clove-like, which made me think Belgianish.
Them phenols.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing the researchers did not do was brew any actual batches of the lager with the yeast. So it remains to be seen if the beer these new yeast strains produce will actually be any good. That was the one thing, but there is potential here. So if they can, they could take these yeast to from a point of where they were pretty lackadaisical about fermenting out sugars to being very effective at it. If they could take them doing that, they can probably come up with ways of breeding them to get very favorable flavor and aroma compounds would be my guess. So we might have some really interesting new lagers coming up very soon.
I think that's what interests me more in the next 10 years, Brian. Not will it be NA or cannabis stuff on tap, but think back to 10 years ago when we were doing a lot of home brewing. And crazy to say, but it has been 10 years ago when we kind of started home brewing. But
yes,
the yeasts that are available now, those weren't that, there weren't options like that when we started home brewing. You know, you had White Labs, Y yeast, and then is it Safel? I don't know how.
Safe ale, Saf ale,
something like that. A couple dry yeast and a couple wet yeast makers, and that was it. And now there's tons of, you know, small labs doing crazy blends and stuff like that. We've got what's the Viking yeast? I'm forgetting that
Quake.
Yeah, Quake there. You know, totally different things. We never got a chance to brew with that, Brian.
We never had thiolized yeast either.
Yeah, when thiolized. So that's what I want to see. What do we get, man? What do we get from the world of hops, the world of yeast, even malts? You know, they're even looking, you know, what can they improve with efficiency there? Maybe in the future we'll be able to use 1 pound of malt and get like a 30% stout or something.
Wow.
You know, they'll get them super efficient there. So that's what interests me. That is what I want to see. Well, y'all, thank you so much for coming here and hanging out with us on Beer Guys Radio. This has been episode 420. If you like what we're doing, we'd love for you to subscribe to our podcast on any of the podcasting apps. If you really dig what we're doing, then please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. We'll get you in our Discord chat, hang out. We'll send you some cool swag, and we'll all have a good time. So we hope that you have a good week, no matter what you do. And we want to remind you, don't forget to drink local. Cheers. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. I think I missed a couple comments here. Tyler, man, thanks for hanging out with us. Glad you're enjoying Houston. Neil was fun to chat with. Neil said he had to run off, but he said he'll be back. He said he'll be back another time.
Good.
He had to run. So I wouldn't mind chatting with him some more about what's happening there in Canada. You know, see what they're what they're up to there. But he mentioned some things like they can infuse with anything there in their beverages. So
and before we run out of time, Serendipity 213 was talking a lot to us on Instagram. I was kind of keeping an eye a little bit. I
forgot to watch that. So but Neil did. I missed this, but Neil said the coca leaf is not that crazy. He said it's like a heavy sugar rush.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, good stuff.
That sounds pleasant, actually.
Yeah, I think they do a whole lot to it to turn it into cocaine. So
I think it's a fair amount of refinement because you got to take leaves and To make it into powder, the way I would just assume that takes a lot of leaves and a lot of processing to get it to what it is. But who knows? I mean, I've never run a drug cartel that anybody knows about, so I can't. Really
Coca-Cola had as much as 9 milligrams of cocaine in each bottle, and in the Wikipedia article that I read, it said that a typical line consisted between 50 to 75 milligrams. So
okay, so
9 milligrams a bottle. It's
but
not
you
an
have your
insignificant
6-pack.
amount,
It's a line of Coke, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
Looks like Instagram just ended on us. It's
It'll
pretty accurate with right on the hour.
It very much is. It very much is. It's now it sounds like they've got certain accounts that that they don't force to that 1 hour, but I don't know why. I don't know why ours is. I don't know what gets you the special treatment there, but they cut us right at that 60-minute mark.
That's too bad.
You know, with that said, let's go ahead and wrap up the live stream there. Y'all, if you are one of our Patreon supporters, we're going to put the link in our Discord server if you want to come hang and have a beer with us, join the after party here on camera. So thanks so much, y'all. Have a good week. We'll see you. What's next week?
Next week.
Hold on. Is it July 3rd next week?
3rd.
I think it's
y'all.
Like
we
3rd,
may take off because our processing and all that falls into the 4th. So that one, we may be out doing stuff that may be hard for us to do. We'll see. We'll let you know if that's the case. If not, we'll see you the week after that on the 10th. But we'll keep it posted. Thanks for hanging, y'all. Have a good one. Cheers.